Hello, gorgeous women. It's Camille here from Next Level Women, and I am really excited to have a beautiful and precious guest as part of the interview series today. She is an intimacy expert and has got so much wisdom to share with us. It's Kimberley Pendleton, and welcome on the call. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just delighted to be here.
So for the women who haven't met you, I've personally been following you for a little while, and I just love your, of course there's some synchronicities with our work, but I love your softness and your wisdom and your depth with how you share your beautiful content with your audience. And I was just really drawn to do this interview.
Yeah.
Tell the women who haven't met you yet a little bit about what it is you do, just in the big picture, and why you're so passionate about your work.
Thank you so much. Yes, I really feel like this work. So I'm an intimacy coach and I run an intimacy coaching kind of education business. So I have a lot of online courses and I have an online coaching community. And a lot of the work really started just from what I needed myself. When I think about my own intimacy journey, especially my background is coming from a kind of high control religion, where purity was really stressed and pleasure was a big no. I just had so much learning to do. I had so much unlearning to do, honestly, around just like desire and who am I and what do I want? And I feel like over the course of answering those questions for myself, where like I went and got a lot of training, I got my PhD, I did some trauma work. It was like, oh, I have to pass this on. This took me, 10 years and like $100,000. Maybe I can shorten that and cut that cost down for other people by like creating what I wish I had had. So the courses are really like the journey that I took, and my intimacy coaching feels like I'm really talking to that younger version of me, being like, it's okay, you're gonna uncover her more and more. And that was really why the name Uncover for my brand felt really right, because it was like kind of sexy, like peeling off the layers, but
Right.
also like really coming back to that commitment of like, you are the one, we can trust her. Let's just like get back to her. And that to me was really healing, really
Love
healing.
that. Love that. And I love how you're now sharing a more, I guess you're helping women to not having to spend 10 years and $100,000 necessarily
Right.
on their journey, and really just fast tracking that process by going really deep and holding
Yeah.
space. But what I'm feeling from, what I'm really picking up from you is you are such a master at holding really deep space for your clients and the women in your group. Like it's that real sacred space that we need as women in order to actually go deeper, because it's hard holding, it's challenging holding that space for ourselves, right? Especially, yeah. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, with holding the space for ourselves without any support? Can it?
No, it's such a good question. Yeah, sorry, don't mean to cut you off. I think we're so excited to talk about this. But yeah, I recently just hired another intimacy coach for myself and have in the past as well. And it is one of those things where even when you know it, even when you teach it, it can be so easy to skip. And I actually think that one of the things I notice in my colleagues and my friends when they're feeling a little stagnant, and same with myself, we ask ourselves, like, oh, wait, am I doing my own work right now or not? Like, am I tempted to skip it? And so having someone else hold you, whether you know it or not, whether you think it's important or not, it can be such a gift to your nervous system because it's just like, okay, someone else has got me. And I sometimes think about how like even the most talented hairdresser probably like wouldn't try to cut the back of like her own hair. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we need each other. Like that's why this field is so powerful. Like it's not about a coach knowing more than you necessarily or having the right answers, but just like holding that space for you to come home to yourself again and again. And I really consider that to be so priceless.
100% agree. And it's actually an interesting thing that you've just shared, because a lot of my clients, my main work used to be, it's shifted a little bit, but it used to be helping single successful women in how to attract a suitable partner.
Yeah.
That sort of mid to late 30s, like women who were really more in the masculine, very successful and driven, but not great with personal relationships, and they still wanted to have, you know, a baby before they turned 40 or something. So that was very much my niche. And a lot of my clients back then, they really resisted getting support because it's like, well, I shouldn't need this. I should be able to work this out by myself. So that is that's part of our block though, isn't it? With not
Yes.
getting support and not feeling we shouldn't need it.
Yes. 100%. I think that that can be one of the ways where our success in one area, you know, especially as really like high achieving, powerful women, it can be a little bit of a hindrance in another area where it's like almost we shame ourselves for not being able to do everything alone when actually that's so normal. And it's so much better for everyone for us to be in that collective kind of community care together.
Yes.
So love that observation. And, you know, those can be some of the toughest, like, stories to get out of in our brain of like, I should know better. I shouldn't need any help. I shouldn't have to like work at this, and
Right.
letting go of some of that pressure, some of that self like flagellation, you know, can just be such a gift.
Absolutely. And another thing you've just mentioned, I want to share a little bit of my where I'm at personally with the audience too, which I think is relevant of with what you shared about, you know, we need to walk our talk. So I recently come out of a 16-year relationship. So we were married for about 7 years, but together for 16. And I've just
Yeah.
recently started to step into the dating game again. And I'm like, oh my God, like I know all this, right? I know how to
Yes.
navigate. I know, but it's so much easier said than done. And I'm now sort of stepping back into where my clients usually are sitting, and I'm like, oh my God, and all the triggers are coming up, and it feels so
Yeah.
vulnerable, and I'm getting
Yeah.
really neat, I'm getting pushy, and I know exactly what's happening. So I'm revisiting what I needed to revisit, and it's just
Yes.
beautiful because I'm like, wow, this is so needed. And it is so the trick, yeah, all of the stuff comes up. And I wanted to ask you about, from your perspective with your intimacy work with women who are starting to look for a relationship, and they're potentially getting closer to falling in love or navigating through that early stage. What do you think is why do all the triggers come up in that stage? What's your take on that, with that getting closer to someone? Like what
Yeah.
happens in that space for women?
I love that question. And I wonder about this answer, but here's what's coming through. If I'm just being totally honest, I picture like everything coming up because it's like ready to clear, you know, almost like getting a facial or something and like everything just getting like steamed to the surface. And it's not the most comfortable, you know, you're like, oh my God, that was in there. That was in there. Like, ah, but just the like, getting it out,
Yeah.
especially if it's old intimacy wound stuff and patterns that we've had sometimes since childhood, you know, running the show. And I really notice in myself and in my clients these kind of core intimacy wounds, like being afraid of being abandoned or that we're too much or not enough. And it just, I find they get triggered early in a way so that it's like, okay, let me slay that dragon. Okay, on to the next. And it feels like if we have support, and we've got someone holding us through it, it can actually be kind of nice to be like, okay, let's get this out of the way, slough this off. Like, I want to make room for the love I'm calling in. And I don't want my old patterns of self-sabotage. And I say self-sabotage, but I don't blame us, but it's like, if I'm not careful, I'm going to push away what I'm asking for instead. And this just feels like one of those chances where if we've got the tools and we've got the space, we can actually be so grateful for the triggers because it's like, you've popped up. Okay, let's heal that. Let's move into not letting that run the show.
Yes, love that. So really holding the space for it to come up and embracing it from a space of, I guess, curiosity and of like, oh, great, isn't this a great opportunity? Like, wow, I've got this sadness or disappointment coming up. Oh my God, is this me now, or is this me as a teenager? And just really bring it.
Oh my gosh, totally, totally. And, as leaders and coaches, sometimes when I'm feeling like, oh, this again, myself, like, I have to deal with this again, I can get into a place of gratitude because I can be like, oh, this is going to be so useful for my community and for my clients when I can like share, first of all, I still get triggered. I'm still human. Like, don't worry, you're not broken if you still do. But also, I can notice like the time it's taking me to alchemize that, the way that I'm handling it, who I'm reaching out to about it instead of lashing out at my partner or, whatever it is, I can like sort of collect that evidence for them that like, even though the triggers may stay, our response to them gets to really soften the more we do this work.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think the really like what you said about who do I reach out to? Like even recently with this new dating journey of mine, like there was a big day where I felt like sending him all these messages of like pretty much like stepping into blame or being the expert coach, like, well, I think you really do this.
Right.
Like,
Let me tell you what you're doing.
He didn't sign up to personal development. He didn't sign up to my coaching. Let it go. And literally, I didn't message for like 24 hours and just allowed myself to go through my own emotions and just ended up just moving and clearing. And, I talk to girlfriends instead, but I think that's a really good message for my audience when there's a big trigger. Just turn the phone off. It's not about him really. Like let's just go back.
I
Feel
love that.
whatever we need to feel and allow support, because it will shift and amazing things can come up then.
Oh my God, I could not agree more. And once or twice, I've even told a client, message me everything you want to say to him. Feel free to blow up our Voxer chat. And then see about just, okay, like what I bring back to the relationship. Not that we're trying to hide, but just that sense of like, this all gets to get processed. It just may not need to all get processed like at him. It can get processed over here in this place, somebody who really knows how to hold these. And then maybe there is a request, like typically there's something that's like, I'm going to ask for like you to plan a date or for you to respond like even more or whatever, but it can come so clean instead of like maybe over here to me, it was laden with all the like, nobody ever shows up for me and nobody does what they say they're going to do. It's like, that can like translate into, can you make a reservation for us on Friday? And it's like such a different energy for them to receive.
Love it. Tell us a little bit more about the asking for what we want in, because you're married again,
I'm
right?
married. Yes.
Right. And you've had your own journey with
Yeah.
relationships, of course.
Yeah.
Asking for what we want from the feminine energy with what you sort of just touched on, have you got a suggestion or a piece of wisdom with how do we ask for what we want from a real
Mm.
bodied, softer space that is
Such a
still.
good question. Yes, because I actually feel like I see kind of two different directions that I am at least tempted to go. And one is to like try to ask for nothing. And then the other is almost to like totally do it all myself and like be like, I can't trust anyone else. So like, let me do it. And so what I hear you saying, which I totally agree with, is like, there's this third option of like, being in our own magic and knowing that we're okay no matter what, knowing we can meet all our own needs. But especially for those of us who are in relationships with men, it's like they love to provide for us and give us things and plan things and like shower us with gifts. So, like, I mean, we can let them, right? Like, it's our gift to
Yeah.
them to
Yeah.
receive. And so, the way that it has evolved for me over time really is it's like deceptively simple, but we're trained not to do it this way. So it was a lot of work for me to get into this flow of like, I give myself like anything I want, I take care of myself, and I'm like overflowing with gratitude for what my partner gives to me, even if it's like imperfect. Like, I think that's like a piece of the puzzle, especially at the beginning of like, I'm just happy he did this. And like, it doesn't have to be perfect because I've got me, like, I'm fine. And I think where I see a lot of women and where I used to sort of go wrong a little bit is if my cup was so depleted, if he got it wrong, it was a really big fucking deal because I had nothing. Like
Yeah.
I was not happy on my own. And so if he messed up, like, and took me to a place I didn't really want to go or got me the wrong kind of flower or whatever, like I was actually like, I had such a thin rope. And
Yes.
instead, when it was like, I am taking care of myself, everything you do is like delightful extra. And
Mm,
then like getting more and more into that place of like, because they can tell when we're like telling them from bitterness, but they
yeah.
can tell when we're just so turned on and happy. And it'd be like, this is so great. You know what I would also love? And then like, I think it's totally fair to tell them.
I
I have
love
some
that.
clients who have had to really fight against this feeling of like, if I have to ask, it doesn't count anymore. I've been like, let's just try to put that in the trash because he just wants to know what to do. It's not because
And
he
he
doesn't
doesn't know.
care.
He doesn't
He
know. Like
doesn't know. But if
my
he knows
girlfriend
you
wants
love
to.
white roses and tiramisu, like that is gonna show up. And so that just like effusive delight, filling our own cup, and then the like, this is what I'd love. I just find that combination works so well. And any man who doesn't
Magnetic.
want,
It's beautiful.
yes, 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 it's magnetic. Exactly.
It's and you actually modeled it beautifully with your energy, and I think that the women
Yeah.
get so much from the way you express, like even just from me as a I don't know you well, but I just wanted to lean in because you had
Yeah.
this sense of gratitude of like, oh, I'm just loving what I'm so filled up, I'm loving what he's giving me already, and a
Yeah.
really beautiful fullness, softness, and then of course, it's the guy wants to do more of that because he wants to win with us.
Yes,
He wants,
totally.
he
Oh,
wants
that's
to
such a
make
good
it.
way to put it. Such a good way to put it. And one thing that I see, especially when we've got trauma in our background or deep heartbreak in our background, is sometimes those mechanisms that we're trying to keep us safe we're like, don't let anybody even in, don't let anybody win. Like, it's not safe to do that. And so
Yes.
I think looking at the very valid reasons why we might have some of that showing up, but then just like really having some heart to heart with ourselves of like, that's not going to get us what we want. It's so fair and it so makes sense.
Mm,
And like, you get to soften little defense mechanisms because
yes.
we're going to call in love instead.
Yes, and we need to feel that love and be love,
Um,
because that's the space we're holding, right? So yeah,
yeah.
absolutely beautiful, beautiful message. One question I wanted to ask about your audience or your the women you work with, what would be one of the biggest wound, like the biggest intimacy block that you notice?
Such a good question. You know, one of the ones that I see so much, and it may be because I work a lot with entrepreneurs. So we're putting ourselves out there in the world in that way too. Sometimes it's like a double whammy if you're like, I'm putting myself out there to date and I'm putting myself out there
Yes.
to sell. And like, I am so visible. Is it really safe to be seen? And so that wound of like, it's not safe to be seen for all of me or to be completely who I am. And sometimes I feel like it comes up in some funny ways. Like if I'm afraid to tell someone, like, actually, like, I love Taylor Swift, like, I'm so obsessed with it. It's like, this is not the cool girl answer on a date about music. I should
Yeah.
say I love Dylan, but actually, I love Taylor Swift, or like something like that.
Yes.
All the way to like the serious stuff where it's like, I'm afraid to take a stance online about something I really care about because what if people don't like that? And just those fears of like, if someone sees the real me, what if they don't like her? And what I find instead, I mean, it's true. Sometimes people don't like that.
Point. Yeah.
And it's kind of like better to move them along like early. You know what I mean? It's like, who am I trying to fool? I don't want to accidentally, you know, have a client or have a partner who doesn't like the real me. So I feel like that fear, even though she's so fair, we can just be like, yeah, no, it's true. Some people won't like it and other people will love it. And that's all we need. Like, we don't actually need every single man to think that we're the greatest. We need like our band or our partner, our person.
And same with our business, our clients,
Yeah.
like we don't need every kind of client, but we want our ideal tribe.
Ah,
I love what you said about, is it, is it really safe to be seen? And I guess it's the belief of like, if I'm totally authentic in this relationship or in online, can I
yeah,
actually get what I want? Can I get my needs? Will it actually work? Can I actually get, first of all, survive? I guess it's that sort of
right.
that really like that primal fear of, will I be killed? Like, will I actually
Right.
say?
Right.
And but then also like, will I be able to thrive being totally true to myself, both with money and love?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And thank you for naming that, like, so much of that deep fear in us is inherited from past generations where it wasn't safe for women to just go rogue and like
Yeah,
not be approved of by everybody. And if society thought you were dangerous, you might get freaking burned at the stake or
yeah,
called a
exactly.
witch. And it's so soothing, I think, for us to remember these don't come from nowhere. Like, we're not crazy. And at the same time, I feel like what you're also pointing out is like, we don't need to hold on to it either. It's like it makes sense and it gets to melt away if we want it to.
Yeah, beautiful. Can you share, before we wrap up, can you share a bit more about your personal journey with your
Yeah.
with your man now, with how what did you need to overcome or let go of to really have that beautiful, intimate,
Mhm.
passionate, committed relationship that you now have?
Thank you for asking that way, because one of the things that struck me when Nick and I started dating is that I was so open to being loved. And on the surface, we have kind of a hilarious timeline that some of my audience already knows, where I just joke, we did everything wrong. I like slept with him on the first date and I said, I love you after 2 weeks. And we accidentally got pregnant and then miscarried. So we went through this like huge tragedy early. And then we moved in together and then we got married and then we like lived happily ever after. And it was like,
Wow.
almost
So you
mission.
went in strong.
Yeah.
Like, did you know
Well,
he would be a potential long-term guy, or did you think it was just a bit
now,
fun initially?
such a good question. And this is why I'm so grateful to talking about it this way, because I had done so much work by that point. It's like, so it could feel like this kind of willy-nilly timeline, but like the years leading up to that, I had been like, let me crack my heart open and heal it. Let me open up. Who am I calling in? I'm calling in this man with like really amazing character. And so when he entered the scene, I was like, oh, you actually are exactly who I have been like asking for. I had a plan to be kind of wild a little longer, but I accidentally fell in love. And then I really think that one of the things our story ended up being for most of my clients is like permission that you can't do it wrong, that it was like even just kind of chaotic,
Have to
like
play by the
even
rules. You
hard.
don't have to play
Yeah,
by the
like
rules.
you don't have to worry. You can't say the wrong thing or, the right person. It's gonna still work. One of the first texts I ever sent Nick was like, don't forget to ask me out on a date, since we had like already slept together. And it was like, okay.
Oh, that is so
So
funny.
it's
Love
so
it.
healing, right? Just to
Yeah.
know like you can't get it wrong. Not your life that you're meant for. Like even the hard parts. And we got coaching, through our miscarriage because we needed some support. We hired a coach and a counselor and we really like dug deep. But even that, it's like it's our life, it's our love, like we're going to be able to show up for it. And I think anybody working with you, anybody listening to your podcast, it's like you're already doing that work.
Mm.
They're already doing that too, to like be the kind of person who can weather all the storms and also be in all the good and like really be so open to being
Yeah, I love
loved.
that. Is he different to what you thought? Like you said, like when you met him, you thought, wow, this is who I've been asking for. Is there something that he is that you didn't think he was going to be, or any differences?
That is so wise to ask. Yes, every single thing would have been, some we met in real life, and sometimes I am conscious of how if I had seen his profile on a dating app, I don't think we would have matched because I had an image that was totally different in my head of who I was supposed to be with, especially because I have a PhD and I was in academia. Like I thought that's what I was looking for. And here he was. He's an artist. He's a bartender. He never went to college. At the time, he was making, a little bit of money, but nothing like,
Huge.
what some of the other guys in like DC investment bankers I went to college with or whatever. And he just was perfect, like the perfect partner. And I would have missed it. I would have missed him.
That's
And
why
it's
the other
just,
way you would have
yes,
not
I
chosen
think
him.
so. And I mean, now I know like what I was really looking for was like that masculine, like he has this king energy, which I don't know that I would have been able to articulate that at the time, but just that like stable, like I've got you. And then like I'm able to be like the kite flying up all around. And, right now in my business, like money can flow in through here and it can feel a little like magic and confetti. And he's got the like that grounding. Yes, like holding us. And so it's crazy, I think I would have let some of my preconceived ideas get in the way. But luckily we met in real life and just had those sparks fly. And I was like, I'm captured.
I love that. Oh, such a beautiful message. Yeah, let go of the list, because you might actually not realize what you really, really need and want from a deeper space.
It's so true. It's so true. And then realizing like the qualities my list were trying to get at of like this man who loves adventure, well-read, travel, like that was all there. It just wasn't in the package I would have expected.
Love
And
that.
so like, oh, I don't know everything. Like this is so good. This is such a relief.
Amazing. Now, before we wrap up, I guess, is there anything you would like to, we will share a link also after the interview, like, is there a Facebook group or a free opt-in, anything that you would like to share for the women who'd like to find out a little bit more about your work? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
My gosh, so generous. Thank you. Yeah, I have a free Facebook group and I try to fill it with resources and shares in there. There's lots of stuff about Nick. And it's called Pleasure is Power. And I'm happy to share the link. There's a free course in there right now, Upgrade Your Love Life, that I'm actually really proud of. Um, and so I'm so happy to share that with everybody.
Perfect. Yes, and I'm in that group myself, so I'll share that with the audience. And one last, any words of wisdom to wrap up? What do you think is the most important message right now for women in the world who really want to open and deepen their sense of inner connection and intimacy? That's a big question.
Oh, good though. If we could just, you and I, beam into the hearts of like every woman at once, I feel like what we would want to say is like, you are worthy of being loved, like divinely, extravagantly loved. You are so worthy of it.
Perfect message to wrap it up. So thank you so much for sharing some of your journey and your insights. And I just love the theme of, we can't get it wrong. It's about really being authentically ourselves, allowing ourselves to be supported, allowing ourselves to be seen, and to just embrace the journey. So thank you so much again, and we will certainly be in touch. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you
Love.
so much for having me.
Have a great day. Or is it evening where you are?
No, afternoons.
Afternoon.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much again. Talk soon. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.